like to introduce Troy Stanton. Troy is a master barber and for 20 years in Baltimore. He began his training as a teen on the steps in Cherry Hill. He attended West Side Skills Center to begin perfecting his craft. And Troy is with us because he has an extraordinary art collection housed in the barbershop, and he makes it available to his community. Featured works in the collection are featured artists in his collection, are Kevin Cole, Paul Goodnight, Joseph Holston, Charlie Palmer, and the esteemed Sam Gilliam, amongst others. So Troy will be speaking. To Troy's left is Louis Ford. See, they're tricky. They're not sitting in their chairs. All right. Louis Ford is a native Washingtonian and a product of its public schools. A grad of Howard University, he worked as now semi-retired and is helping raise 4 grandchildren. His interests include art, antiques, and cooking. And where's your granddaughter? Raise your hand. So, see, cultivating the next generation. You love it. Poet and playwright, Ms. Apperson is the author of 2 manuscripts of poetry, Black Venus and Reincarnation Blues, and poems from the master year. She has also written 8 plays, including most recently A Goddess Death, 2010, and His Letters in 2006, which in 2007 received a stage reading in Paris, France. As a collector of art, Ms. Apperson believes that color and art have the power to heal and should be honored as such, exclusive of their role as drivers of commercial exchange. And she and her husband are also philanthropists and have supported events at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And lastly, Dr. Auckland Lynch, who is the founder of the Auckland Lynch Cultural Arts Center. He has years of travel, writing, interviews, music, video. Wait, let me start that over. The Auckland Lynch Cultural Arts Center, it's a mouthful, has been cultivated through Dr. Lynch's years of travel, writing, interviewing, art, music, video collection, and relationship building throughout the world. The life's work of Dr. Lynch is extremely valuable and educational. The center has been developed to expose these priceless collections to those seeking cultural enrichment. Through the center, you may research, there are lectures, workshops, field trips, retreats, artist work and study of fabulous art collection. There are events, tributes, and concerts. In part, the center will be a new space for artists, scholars, students, and visitors to expand their knowledge of art, music, poetry, film, and cultural understanding. But the beauty of this effort is that Dr. Lynch will continue to touch the lives of so many by being available to host lectures, workshops, cultural events, and one-on-one sessions by appointment. He has an eye for talented artists, which is reflected in his extraordinary art collection, and he'll share more of that with us during our discussion. All right,
But in the last 5 years, I've been collecting a lot more serious now that I've become a bit more educated on how to collect.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
I've been collecting for about 10 years or so, but in the last 5 years, I've been collecting a bit more serious. Now that I've become a bit more educated on reading, going to museums, galleries, talking with a lot of artists, exchange information, guidance, and getting a feel of art in a whole different realm. Not just the paintings, but the art for music, entertainment, theater, for the arts. And it's been a journey. Yes.
Louis?
I've been collecting for approximately 40 years. it started out basically in college, and I used to collect these, well, actually, I used to lift these posters off of the walls. No, very seriously. In those days, you didn't have mass productions, and when the Howard players would produce plays, the students would actually do posters, original posters in watercolors or tempera, whatever. And I would wait until the production was over and go and just take one up. But after that, I started collecting just pieces that I liked. It evolved into going to museums and art galleries. When my late wife and I started purchasing, the intent was to make these purchases for future use of educating the children. But like most of you might know, once you get acquainted with a piece and you like it, you're not willing to depart with it. So instead of selling the art when they were ready, or when the one was ready to go to college, we made loans and took from savings or whatever. In the past 10 years, I've been more serious as a collector. I haven't done as much research as I probably should have. I've always been guided by my eye. And the more I collect, the more critical my eye becomes. I'm preferring originals now, unless the artist is best known for their prints. And that's about it for us, as long as I've been collecting.
And Robbie, how long have you been collecting?
Yes. Actually, I prepared my remarks, but I think that Troy must have been looking over my shoulder. Because I wrote, I've been collecting for approximately 10 years, and but have acquired nearly half my collection in the last 5 years, which is the truth, and that's what he said. That said, a primary catalyst for my process of collecting has been actually getting a house that had large walls, which was what started me. And then I've become a person obsessed with the color and the way it feels to walk in and see it there. But it actually started when I had the wall space. And actually, I said I began meeting soon after making the spiritual commitment to adorn my home with color. I began meeting the artists who will become my friends and whose work constitutes the bulk of my collection.
And Dr. Lynch, how long have you been collecting?
78 years. From birth, I guess.
Yeah.
That's as long as I've been here. So, but it's a fascinating question, because coming from Yard, from Trench Town, from poverty, from what's the place it's now, from Southeast, from wherever it is, where I come from, the projects, the barrack rooms, whatever it is, we had to collect things. We had to go to the dumps to collect food and collect cans and to collect a lot of stuff. So very early in life, we collected comic books and did pieces of work with comic books. We collected pictures of Joe Louis and Jesse Owens as little boys who wanted to be athletes, and Sugar Ray Robinson, and these were our dreams. And that, I think, led later on to collecting art and collecting ideas and collecting people's genius, especially our people. And coming from a carnival country like Trinidad, color was always something that we were enriched with from day one. Dancing and moving and designing, things, cloth and cardboard and steel and whatever it is. And so therefore I've just grown into that, and I've just done that all my life. And today, fortunately, now you call it art. 1960s, early 60s, I began to have a definition of self, influenced by people like Sterling Brown and others who said, this is the way you've got to do, you know. You've got to begin to take this seriously, what you're doing, and so on. And I think that political influence, people like C.L.R. James and these people began to then prepare me carefully for understanding that there was real value. So we started, of course, like everyone else, with posters. And then we recognized that in the black community, the Roma Ribierdens and others were people who were very important in developing things that we could afford in the early stages, you know. And they were posters, they were, you know, all those kinds of things. And we started there, and then from then on, traveling all over the world, I decided that if I travel to Brazil, to South Africa, to Colombia, to Venezuela, to Morocco, to wherever it is, to the Congo, the most important person for me to meet was an artist. I believe that the artist provided the genius and the understanding of people's condition and life. So I went always to go to look for the artist. As a matter of fact, I believe in artists more than I believe in academicians. And since I was driven, by the Max Roaches and the Dizzy Gillespies and these kinds of people, Monk and these people, they're the ones who really helped me to elevate. Then going to see artists always remained very important. So my collection is a reflection of the people that I met, the people that I talked to and spent hours and hours, and I got all kinds of stories about them, but that's how it is.
So can you tell, for the audience, can you just share with us maybe 4 names of artists who are really a part of that social political movement that are reflected in your collection?
Okay. Well, let's start. I will talk about Ed Love, and it's interesting, who died suddenly a couple of years ago, but it's an incredible person, human being, very sensitive, and I wrote a piece on him when he died in his eulogy, But let me talk about a piece that Ed did. Ed did a piece called Horus. And we all know who Horus is. It's the son of Isis and Osiris. Very important in our formulation from ancient Kemet, ancient Egyptian civilization, and the mythology that had a great impact on Christianity, because that's where Christianity develops its mythology from, with regard to resurrection, with regard to the coming of Christ, with regard to all those things. And they're very, very important. So Ed was doing a piece, and I liked it, and I fell in love with it, and I said, Ed, you know, I really want to get this. I like this piece. This is it. He's done a lot of other stuff on Bird and on all kinds of other things. And in the piece, Ed said, look here, Acklin, I know you. We've known each other for years. I know your family, I know your children, I know how much money you make, I know all the women that you have, I know the life that you live, I know how much you drink. And also, you know me, you know how much money I make at Howard University, you know what I do, you know my life, etc. and so on. So I don't want to give you a price for this piece of work. I'm talking about the sensitivity of the artist. This is Horus now. And he says, I will tell you what, we'll go away for 6 months and come back and you will write something on a piece of paper, a price, for all the things we know of each other. And I will write something. And if we don't meet, we will get into the middle and decide, you know, the middle passage. We'll do the middle passage thing. And we came back on the 13th of June, this was the 22nd December, and we wrote exactly the same number. Wow. Now for me, that's part of the artistic work. That's part of the Holy Spirit that's with us. That is Horus, that is Isis, that is Osiris. And we wrote exactly, and he said, you see, it was always for you, and you can pay me however you want, and I paid it, you know, in parts over a period of about a year. But that to me reflects a certain sensitivity. And another brother in Brazil. I was in Brazil in Rio, looking for a sister who sang like Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday, and in that tradition, Lizette Cardoso. And I'm looking for Lizette all over the place, trying to find her clubs, and I was missing her. I couldn't find her. I was always late and so on. So I go to Salvador de Bahia, and I meet some poets and writers and so on, and artists and sculptors and so on from Argentina, from Brazil. And they had a party for me, and I met this young brother who was an artist. So he invited me to home, and I was telling him my blues story of not being able to meet Lizette Cardoso. So yeah, and one day he said, well, come over by me for lunch. And when I got there for lunch, here was Lizette Cardoso, who flew in from Rio with 2 or 3 of her musicians to come and have lunch with us. And she said, I'm taking you back to Rio with me immediately. So the next thing I was back in. Now this brother, one was a jeweler, an artist, and the other one was a painter. And he had a piece on Yemanja, who is my Orisha. And he gave me that piece on Yemanja. And he went on to become a very famous painter in Brazil. Not only who performed well at the Sao Paulo Centennial, but his work also went to Italy and France, etc., etc. Now he's an older man. And it just came about through just that kind of, meeting of people. And I think that those 2 people speak volumes. And, to talk about Valerie Maynard, that's my love, or Elizabeth Catlett, I went and spent some time with her at her home and met her husband and spent some time with them while I was in Mexico. But you have to go and live and spend some time with the artists, and then everything becomes so much clearer. They're such beautiful people. They are, and not only a question of painters or musicians or dancers, because my daughter, who is a dancer and danced with Alvin Ailey, could never understand how I could talk about, I can't paint, I can't write poetry, I can't play music, I don't know, I can't dance, I'm the only Trinidadian that can't dance. And yet still, I was able to give a lecture at a big dance conference about dance, but it's about the spirit.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to have to move on. Robbie, what is the focus of your collection?
Okay. Actually, the unofficial focus of my collection has been the acquisition of lovely, colorful abstracts, for the most part, which have been created by my dear friends. Of these friends, not all, but most are artists of color. Most notably, I didn't say most notably, I said not all, but most are artists of color, notably Lauren Cornish, Larry Scott, Jeffrey Kent, Jerry Prettyman, Ernest Croma, Joyce Scott, Olitha Devane, and William Rhodes from Baltimore. And I probably left someone out, but I don't think that person's here, so I'm mistake. Roy Cross. Okay, Jonathan Green. It took me forever to finally acquire those. I may get this wrong. David Driscoll, it's got Roy Cross and David Driscoll from Trinidad, and if that's a faux pas, I am sorry. The Driscoll is new. And, okay. Pardon me? Texas. That's just, but originally.
No.
Okay, I'm embarrassed, but that's okay. I will live through this. Claes Gabriel from Haiti, and Ephraim Kouakou from the Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. I have also, although currently, I also have, although these are currently neither appraised nor specified as to origin, many African pieces which are quite old, including crude masks, beadwork, drum stools, kuba cloth, and kente cloth. I acquire pieces which appeal to me in ways which involve color and texture, depth and intricacy. and I love art which inspires both excitement and calm at once.
So I've had the fortunate opportunity to visit your home gallery, and it appears, and I may not be correct in stating this, but primarily your collection is comprised of Baltimore artists. Is that a true statement?
Primarily, I guess, yeah, to say that most of the pieces there are from the Baltimore artists. I think so, sure. I think so.
Okay. And do you allow, because I've gone there on some special occasions, it's called the Ackerson Home Gallery, I guess primarily because it's in your home, but do you allow the general public to come in and view the work?
What happens is the only reason it's called at the moment the Ackerson Home Gallery is because Peter Brune from Our Own Purpose, the former director,
Yes.
came in and saw it and suggested I label everything. There's too much work in this place not to label it. And somehow when I gave him all the titles and he made the labels and I put them on the wall, it just seems to be a gallery now. And that's, that was the vague transition, very, very unofficial. As you know, people tend to look at the work when they come for events. And so until I get the perfect assistant in my life, there will not be a process of people coming in unless I'm having an event and they happen to be there.
All right. Okay, thank you. Louis, what is the primary focus of your collection?
It's eclectic, actually. Primarily African American, African, and others, but I focused on masters, old masters, and contemporaries. Not a lot, but any number of pieces have been acquired through travel. And these were not necessarily well-known artists, but again, they were pieces that attracted my eye and they were very good. I thought they were very good works. As I go through the house and look at them, they always bring back the memories of the trips that I was on. So I really enjoy them from that standpoint. Of late, because the walls are so filled with art at this point, I've been more focused on small pieces and also sculptures of African sculptures, American sculptures, and photographs.
So what would you say, and I know this may be difficult to answer, I've seen your collection and it is really extraordinary, but what was the greatest experience you had in acquiring one of the works of art? I won't ask you what's your favorite piece, because collectors cannot never answer that question quickly. So what was the greatest pursuit?
What was the greatest pursuit? That's a difficult question to answer, but I recently, and I hope I'm not getting in trouble by saying this.
That means you're going to end up being in trouble.
I recently had occasion to go to the studio of Sam Gilliam, and I had gone there for the specific purpose of finding out more information about a piece that I owned by him. And I sat down and talked with him. It was just a very relaxed evening or afternoon, and I couldn't believe that I was sitting here talking to the master one-on-one. Well, in the process of waiting on him to do something, I started walking around, and I could never afford one of his big pieces, but he had this little small piece that was sitting on the air conditioner, the window air conditioner. And when he sat back down, I asked him about the piece, and he says, "Oh, that's just piece of junk. I said, well, if it's a piece of junk, can I buy it or can I have it? Actually, it was a small piece about 8 by 14, which was intended to go on one of his larger pieces as one of the panels or whatever he might describe it as. But at any rate, he said, you may have it. Well, I mean, I was like on cloud because even though I had other pieces by him, this one was just something very special. And I didn't think that I was going to be in his studio as long as I was because I only went for one purpose. And when I got out, I had a ticket on my car. I said, I don't care. It was worth it. This was just within the past.
So Sam, you know that we all want to pay you a personal visit.
So that was Fenty trying to make you pay.
I'm going to move on to Troy and ask Troy, what is the focus of your collection?
I really love art, real passionate about art. And my focus would primarily be to share. I had a privilege to work with people on a daily basis on a bar. And the privilege is to share, and it's a focus. It's like, you know, to bring what I have. I believe art shouldn't be hoarded. And I'm in a very diverse neighborhood, so I bring my pieces that I collect to the public for others to see. And I brought it down to the barbershop a few years ago for the little children in the neighborhood, you know, to share it, because I knew that in that particular neighborhood, our children would not be exposed to our art or art of any culture. So when I brought it down there, I found out that not only the children never seen art, a lot of adults knew, even less than children. So as I learned and as I grew, my collection grew, the children grew, the information grew, and it started to flourish.
That's excellent.
It down.
Yes.
And that's been a real passionate part of my collection, is the exposure. And so and then with that, I get a chance to go out to meet exciting individuals, like you say, artists. I like movies, but being a barber, I really do get to meet a lot of people. I like movies. You know, to meet an artist is more exciting and electrifying and stimulating to me than to meet a celebrity or a basketball star or whatnot. You know, and with this internet, I use the internet because with the internet, it widens the variety to art at a whole nother level. But it's not personal. But with artists are a bit more personal. You know, and it can be a bit more expressive when to meet someone. Get a chance to go out and meet people, share, and you know, just the whole sharing process. I believe that art, like I said, art shouldn't be hoarded. And right now, my focal point has been to go out and collect and to just the exposure. You know, just one haircut at a time, one piece of art at a time, one person at a time.
At some point, we're going to actually pull up Troy's website and share it with you. The barbershop is really beautiful. You won't believe, you'll be pleasantly surprised at how beautiful it is. And he got my thumbs up in terms of how things are hung. He said, now, do I need to change anything? Because he also buys through my gallery, which I'm very proud to have him as a client. And so the last question I would like to pose is to each one of you. In what way do you believe your collection is contributing to the preservation of our culture? And Troy, I'll begin with you.
Well, pretty much, as I just spoke, the preservation is to leave something on, to expose the neighborhood, the children. I remember when I was a kid, and I was in my teens, and I saw the Cosby Show. I like this show, but I would look at it more so to see what was on the wall. Because before then, there was Good Times with the Ernest Baines work. And you know, the motion and all of that. And I was like, you know, that was fascinating. Then there was a Cosby Show that gave me a sense of hope that what I could do, that it is possible. I didn't know nothing about it, but I always knew there's something about that, and I know they have some value or whatnot, but that gave me a shot of hope. And then later on, there were shows such as like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where our artists were a bit more exposed, they got recognition. And with that, I'm just doing my part of my community to plant that seed to help someone, and just to show someone that things can be done with the art, you know, the recognition. One of my former focal points is that I've realized that more people will have a chance to come to the barbershop in the city and to see art from all aspects, from the posters to the photos to the limited edition signed in numbers to the fine arts to the masters, from the different formats to commercial framing to popular framing to the simpler framing to the fine arts, the whole aspect to share. So my point is just the expression and the sharing and the give back. That's it, and to leave a legacy, not just to my family, but to my community.
I don't think I had really given any thought to your question before, and I might be remiss in not actually doing as much as I possibly could. But I do think that in having this collection and exposing family members and friends to it who don't know as much about art or don't appreciate it as much, I know that I've been able to influence any number of people to start collecting, to improve their collections, or to raise it to a different level of collection, because sometimes people, they're going out and buying things just because it's popular, as opposed to something that will have some value to it. And they're paying just as much for something that's popular as they could be paying for something of some real value. And I think that in exposing them or actually teaching them this art of collecting, it's helping to preserve the culture. Who knows where we might be in the future, but as we as a people collect more, there's going to be a growth in the culture, and it'll just expand.
Thank you. And Bobby?
Yes, Myrtis, you never asked me why I collect. However,
I'm sorry.
I believe it's okay. I probably answered it. I will say, however, that the experts, it's been written that the collector of art shares a quirky aspect of nature with any hoarder, even someone that collects useless plastic things. And these, so that likens the acquisition of fine art even to a vagrant's collection of garbage. And we collect, the experts say, to fill some place of need within us. And to the extent that I'm a part of that group, the humans, I acknowledge that I love the feeling of acquiring a piece of art. And for me, it has been like bringing a new, I wanted to say baby, and I thought that was poignant. I thought it was maybe even too poignant, and it's not. But I did say it's like bringing a new friend into the house to live and be loved. It's only lately though that I have become to understand or appreciate the fact, and my husband appreciates it well, that art is an appreciable asset if you are, buying art, that's valuable. Although that was never a factor before. Okay, and as for whether or not I feel that my collection contributes anything to our legacy as a people, I've said that I think that to the extent that a collector's art lives within the collector's home, the collection itself can be considered a preservation or encapsulation of individual experience. Experience that could be said to represent a congregate of cultural experiences. I'm no scholar, but I thought that this was the language that would be most appropriate, and now it seems a little stilted. In my case, therefore, I believe that my art collection stands as evidence of the culmination of experiences which have informed my life as a Black woman. So that one day when I've donated my collection, and I want to, maybe Myrtis can help me give it all away. Maybe she can just have it all. One day when I give this collection away, I would hope that its message would seem to be that Robbie Ackerson offered this collection in discernment of the stunning joy and beauty garnered somehow from our journey as a people through unspeakable hardship, from unspeakable hardship to artistic actualization. But now sitting next to Dr. Lynch, I realize there's no delineation. It's just been fluid. We've been through it, we're going through it, and we've come out and we have art. And I feel, moreover, that if my collection could speak, it would say, this is art imitating triumph.
Because I was remiss in asking Louis why he collects, I want to go back. I think Troy has spoken well to that. So, but Louis, I would like to pose a question to you. Why do you collect?
I collect for the simple joy of the image. I can't adequately describe what the art means to me. I said to a friend not too long ago, am I being vain in taking joy in what I have acquired? But just to come into a room and see these beautiful works, and sometimes it's at different times of the day. Sometimes you can be down, and just looking at the art will lift you up. But at this point, art is a passion with me. She's my mistress.
Do Galerie too?
And I think it was someone sent me a card recently, and on the back was this heart, and inscribed in the heart was this quotation by Picasso, which said, "Art washes away the dust from the soul of everyday life." I said, that's deep. And it adequately reflects how I feel about why I collect, because it means so much. I mean, it can give me joy when I'm down. It can give me joy when I'm up. It just projects itself, and it jumps off the wall. So I tend to acquire more, so that the more you have, the more you enjoy.
Well, you know, a mistress is never satisfied, so you have to Dr. Lynch and ask you, why have you collected?
But I want to first thank you and Alex and Brenda for inviting me, because a friendship has developed here just in a couple of months, a couple of weeks, that I think is very important, and I want to thank them for that. But I also want to thank them for when I look out at this, at the people that are here. You said it's Duke Ellington.
Yes, music is my mistress.
It's so beautiful to see. I have never been to sit down to talk about art in front of people who are themselves not only elegant, but they seem almost like a painting. So thank you for making that happen in your home. It's really beautiful. Just to feel it and the vibe, you know. It's the texture and everything is right. So thank you for that. I have a little adopted little sister who's 3 years old named Maya. And she comes to the house and she looks around and sees the work and she wants to paint, she wants to work, she wants to draw. She's just fascinated with it. There's a piano, I can't play the piano, but I got a piano. Maya wants to play the piano. Now that's what I think is the reflection. The reflection of the work is not simply the artistic work on the wall or the piano as an instrument, but it's the imagination that is accrued from it that will then allow this little girl, Maya, to tell the world how beautiful she is and how beautiful the people from whom she came are. So that in my house, the artwork is, everything is done by a black person. And people ask me, well, how do you do that? Why don't you have white folks art in your thing? And I said, no, I travel around the world, as you say, Africa, Latin America, etc. And this is the majestic expression of our genius. From ancient Kemet to the present. Why would I not want to have that in my environment and surrounded? I mean, I just think it's so organic, it's so natural. It is part of indigeneity. It's our indigenous voice. And therefore we should do it. And we should support it. I think that that's very, very important. So that having it means that there is an ongoing lesson. There's an ongoing spiritual moment. When you see it, you feel it, you know it. It's no different from Aretha Franklin singing something that you hear in church on Sunday. That's what it is. So that I live with it. I would rather live with that than to go to Las Vegas. Why would I want to go to Vegas when I could create this, what you've done right here? That I think is important for me. So that it is for the next generation, my children, grandchildren, etc., all the children in the neighborhood, as my brother quite rightly said, the children from the yard, wherever they come from, they're going to have to come and, you know, and sit down and look at it and do whatever they want with it, dance to it, you know, and that's what becomes a very, very important for me. And therefore, it is in that sense, it is in that spiritual sense that I think we should create environments where ancestors speak to us. So that if you have Horace Pippin, you not only know the journey that Horace Pippin went on in World War I, you not only know the suffering and anguish he had when he lost one arm, but that he could do certain kinds of work that would inspire us to what social justice means. That Horace Pippin could tell us, and therefore have an influence in 1943 on Monk, and on Miles, and on Max, and on Duke, etc. And on, what's the dancer's name? Catherine Dunham, and Pearl Primus. That's what it is. It's the continuity of our spiritual definition, created in a way that makes it possible for us to live in this universe and make it a better place for us to live in.
Speak, brother. So you almost answered this question in part, but I'm going to pose it so you can expand upon it. In what way do you believe your collection is contributing to the preservation of our culture?
Essentially, that's what we all are. And if I wear this, then this is the preservation of our culture because it is done by black hands. If you see what I'm saying, coming out of Trinidad, a Calypsonian's children made it, so I will buy it, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And this has to come out of those hands. It is the preservation, and it's a preservation, and coming to you and Alex means so much to me. And my good sister here from Trinidad. The preservation is not only an aesthetic question, but it's an ethical responsibility to the preservation of your life and your work. Because if I can work with you and you can do the things that you're supposed to do with me for the artist, and we can then move that whole that network or that group of people to elevate themselves, then it is economical, political, social, psychological, and spiritual. It's everything for me.
Two things. One, yes, Dr. Lynch is my client. And two, his works, if you haven't already guessed, are the primary focus is artists of the Pan-Africanist movement, which he has been an integral part of.
Couldn't hear you. Part of the what?
Pan-Africanist movement, which Dr. Lynch has been an integral part of. So at this moment, we're going to take a break. I'm going to, when we convene, I'll be introducing and we'll have my discussion with Alva Binder, the appraiser. Following Alva will be a Q&A. So let's all take a quick break and then we're going to come back very shortly.